Thinking of that, directing one's whole conscious being to that, making that their whole aim, with that as the sole object of their devotion, they reach a state from which there is no return, their sins washed away by wisdom. In this verse, Shri Krishna describes the type of person that can attain wisdom. That in this verse means the Supreme Soul or God. Tat buddhaya means one whose intellect, which is the first word, tut buddhayas, means one whose intellect is directed at the form of the Supreme Soul, and such a person can attain to wisdom. The intellect is the strength or the power of making a discrimination, such as right or wrong, or whether you should do something or not. If a glass has come to your hands filled with water, then it is the intellect that decides whether you should drink it or not. The mind will tell you that you're thirsty, and therefore you should drink it. The intellect will ask whether it's filtered or whether it is clean. If it is clean, then you will drink it, otherwise you will not drink it. This is the intellect. The mind does not see all of this. If you are thirsty, then the mind will ask for water. The intellect will say no, and no matter how thirsty you are or how much you suffer, it's better to suffer from thirst now rather than stay in bed for a week drinking polluted water. The mind does not make this decision. It is the intellect that does this. It has the power of discrimination. One whose intellect is completely directed towards the Supreme Being is Tat Buddhaya. The next word, Tat Manas, which is the second word, means one whose mind, consciousness, ego and soul, one's mind, consciousness, ego and self are directed to the form of God. Then you've got Tat Nishta, meaning one whose whole aim is the Supreme Soul. I like the word Nishta a lot. It has a very strong ta in it, Nishta. Think about what the word ta sounds like. You say it using your tongue and your teeth. It's like digging a hole in the ground, placing the root of a plant there, and putting the soil back on top of the root. Will the plant move? Nishta, strong. The roots will be strong, and the plant will not move. If there's a long microphone, then it can lead in any direction, but if the round base that touches the ground is strong, then the microphone can be anywhere, and yet it doesn't fall. Without the strong base, the microphone will fall down immediately. In the same way, the ta in Nishta demonstrates someone who is steady on a great and bigger aim. His heart is firm underneath the soil, and his mind is under his control. Tan Nishta Paramatmane. Next you got Tat Paramnaha, meaning one who makes the Supreme Soul the sole object of the devotion and does not think about anything else. He only thinks about the Supreme Soul in his mind. One gets an interest in God, and his mind will never want to get out of this. They remain drowned in their love for God. Guruji once saw a sticker on the back of the car. It said something different, but he always says that you can interpret something according to what's in your mind. The sticker said, to avoid hangovers, stay drunk. Guruji thought after reading the sticker that if you're tatparanaha and drunk with the juice of the Supreme Soul, then when you come out of this, he doesn't know what a hangover is, but it must be like this. So to prevent the suffering that the situation entails, the sticker on the car gives us a solution. Stay drunk and drowned in God. Do not come out of this, and why should you come out? Tat parana, the bond never breaks. Aisi lagi lagan mira ho gai magan, meaning once Mira was enjoined with the Supreme Soul, she became engrossed. That both means the former class teacher and also the great Mira from Rajasthan in medieval India. It never breaks. Such a person does not like anything apart from the Supreme Soul. This is a characteristic of love. If someone goes to a female lover, then when he is describing his love, then she keeps talking about him. If you even go to try and talk about anything else, then she will just immediately bring the conversation back to the person that she loves. That is all she enjoys talking about. Tatparanaha. In the same way, one who is in love with God will have no interest in anything else apart from God. He is completely engrossed in God. Guruji always says that on the path of wisdom, you need love. Your love for yourself increases because it's the same thing to love yourself and to love the Supreme Soul. The destination is the same, only the roads are different. Once a person knows themselves completely, then they can never stay far away from God. Tatparanaha. A person who has these qualities, it says, reaches the state from which there is no return and has their sins washed away by wisdom. The state from no return is a supreme peace or Brahmistiti, the state of Brahman. The words are different, but the state is the same. Yadgnatvi vartate tadma paramama. Wisdom means awareness. It means being awake. Such a person's sins get washed away. At every step he thinks about whether he is doing leads him towards moksha, liberation. After that, he can't do anything wrong, and all his sins get washed away. As soon as he's about to doing something wrong, then wisdom comes and tells him that it's wrong and that he shouldn't do it. His life becomes spotless. No sins remain in his life. Such a person reaches a state from which there is no return and does not come back to the material world. Who comes back to the material world? It's one who is ignorant and who doesn't make such efforts. The person does not even know what gives him pleasures and still keeps coming back to the material world. Guruji was once in Canada and he went to Edmonton, where there was a mall called West Edmonton Mall. It was probably the biggest shopping mall in the world. There were many shops in there for clothes and gifts and so on, and the mall was so big that there was an amusement park inside it, so you can imagine how big it must have been. There were many different rides in the amusement park, including the roller coaster. There were long lines for this roller coaster and people would be screaming at the top of their lungs. Guruji also went on it with 3 friends who are locals. Each ticket cost 12 Canadian dollars. Many people were queuing for it, and therefore Guruji assumed they must be enjoying it. They asked him, Guruji, whether he wanted to sit on it, and Guruji said, let's give us a try, what's wrong with it? Guruji went on it, sat on it, and they said that they had gone in on it many times, and so didn't want to go on it. Guruji said, okay, I'll go on it. They eventually decided to sit with him as well. It was the first time Guruji had sat on a roller coaster, and also the last time. At the beginning you enjoy it a lot, but when it takes you up, your body gets pulled in different directions. In India and to an extent in the UK, roller coasters are like toys, but you won't believe over there the multiple hoops and things they have. They close their eyes and ask God to stop the ride. They're so clever that the place to get off is different from the place you get on, like we see over here. It was a system where they let you off the carriage first, and the empty carriage move forward. Then exciting people give their 12 Canadian dollars tickets. They go after waiting a long time. They were excited because their turn came, but when people got off, then the moves were completely different. Guruji saw those people who got off the ride. Some were dizzy, 1 or 2 were vomiting, and many things like this happened. Guruji stood at the place where they got off until 4 or 5 carriages came. They came and asked him whether he wanted to go again, and he insisted that he wanted to observe this, because the more he saw this, then he would less inclined he would be to queue up for such a ride again. Otherwise, if he had not seen this properly, and then at some point his mind would tell him that he would have to queue for such a ride again. 4 or 5 carriages came after the ride was finished. Guruji always says that if one looks at life in life's way, for them spirituality is very easy. People kept coming off the carriages and were very dizzy, yet they sat back on the carriages once again. Guruji saw all of this and thought that some of these people may not be first timers like him and may be going on the ride again and again. Many may even got a thrill out of it and spent 12 Canadian dollars again and again on the ride. Standing by the roller coaster ride, Guruji thought that this is exactly what the material world is like. When a person comes in and very excited and conscious after he's gone through the 3 hoops of childhood, youth and old age, then he comes out very disappointed. Yet he has not learnt and goes back on the ride. Guruji asked an elderly person that went on a ride whether he was going on for the first time. He said no, because he enjoys the ride. His wife was standing outside for him, and she said that he blows all his money on the roller coaster. The elderly man was so engrossed on this roller coaster that he'd work the entire week, come back to the amusement park on every Sunday, and spend a lot of the money going on the roller coaster again and again. He'd waste all his money on this. He must have got a thrill out of this. He asked the elderly man, he had gone on the roller coaster several times, but had he reached anywhere? He said no, because he doesn't need to reach anywhere. He just sits on the roller coaster, goes through a few hoops and leaves it. This is exactly what's happening in the world. A person goes through many hoops and just comes back to the same position all over again. This is sorrow, but as soon as the person formed the habit out of it, he doesn't like to come out of it and goes back again for the same experience again and again. It gets out the experience of sorrow. Have a think about this. People go back on this over and over again, but if the person becomes aware at that moment and sees that one moment about the people, why should the people trouble themselves over the sorrows, then that person wonders why he should go through all those hoops. He therefore leaves this habit. He has grown out of this. If someone looks at all the roller coasters in this world, then the feeling is the same. Then whatever births or circumstances you go into, or whatever life you look at, the dizziness is exactly the same. The reason for which people have to go through these hoops again and again is something different. When a person doesn't know how to go through this properly, then he has to go through these hoops over and over again. But once a person goes through the hoop properly and gets the right experience just once, then he does not need to go through the hoops over and over again. Once is enough. You can still experience the roller coaster was like sitting on the chair. Why is that not possible? With just one experience, the person received the right lesson. If a student remembers what his teacher taught him for the first time, then he is considered intelligent. Some people need to be taught 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Some people need to be taught 10 times. Some people need to be taught 25 times. The more times they need to be taught, the more times they have to go through the lesson. Whatever way they go, ultimately they have to get tired. Then why cannot they not experience this for the first time when they go on? If they do, then they'll move forward and develop. What if one experiences on the first time while other experiences after 25 times? Time will be saved, energy will be saved, and wealth will be saved. One should learn to do it in the right way. Guruji often gives a story of a music show was going on. As soon as the singer started singing the first song, there was a naughty group of youngsters in the audience that were making noise. As soon as the singer was about to finish, they kept shouting out, "Again! Again!" The singer thought they must have liked the song and are therefore asking him to sing again. He started singing the same song again, and as soon as he finished, the group of youngsters again shouted, "Again! Again!" This happened 3, 4, 15, 25 times, and the 3-hour show came to an end. 3 hours had gone, and the youngsters were still shouting, "Again! Again!" He asked them if they wanted to listen to another song and why they keep requesting that same song. One of the youngsters shouted out, "Until you learn how to sing that song properly, otherwise you'll keep saying again, again." In the same way, individual soul comes into the material world and sings the story of his life. If he makes even a single mistake, then the Supreme Soul will say, "Again, again." While you're not singing it properly, then this again, again will happen. But if you sing it right just once, then you get a necklace of garlands and a round of applause. The Supreme Soul will say, "Now you have sung it properly." Then the individual soul will have his sins washed away by wisdom and reaches a state where he doesn't return. 2 things have been described here, and the root of them both is understanding. This is what he attains. And what happens after he attains this? The next verse answers this, and it will be a topic in the next class. So next class, the topic will be entitled Samadrashti.